to some of the things that they're talking about, and they can go back and watch the video.
So does anyone in the room have their?
What do you want, John? Phone?
If your phone is on the meeting, then that would be great. Yeah.
It doesn't have anything to do with what you're hearing what we hear on the
Understood.
sound is echoey.
Yeah.
So
And
was yours on?
this is why, it has nothing to do with other people's sounds in the room.
We may have a solution here.
Coming through the owl as a double.
Well,
Susan's not having.
While
that
you're doing
issue, she can
introductions,
only
you wanna
hear
go
stuff.
around, do introductions?
Okay, we'll work with what we got.
It's a recording, so.
Thank you.
Okay, so,
We don't want to hear that.
right,
Yeah, but you're coming through okay. So.
but your microphone is not on?
No, she had an end of the
We
meeting.
need you that to be muted and turned
Oh, I
off.
probably muted.
Okay.
Guys, that-
So our usual process is that we announce the agenda, and Mr. Farron is indeed our agenda, and so there is always an opportunity in a meeting to change the agenda if anybody wants to, otherwise we'll move on.
Well, I'm hoping we're gonna have announcements and we'll. say a
Yes,
little
Brenda, we
bit.
will.
Okay, I didn't hear that in the agenda.
Okay,
And John, I'm interested in if there's any tenants here.
okay.
Okay, great. I got one.
So one of the things we're gonna do is go around and do introductions,
And that'll be part of the introduction.
Great.
and one of the things we'll ask is, are you a renter or are you an owner?
Or are you a landlord?
Yeah, well, there you go.
Okay, there you go. So we will now do introductions, and then Claire will take over and she'll do announcements and take it. No, you're gonna do the introductions and announcements.
Right,
So I'm turning it over to you.
okay. A little bit raggedy getting started here. We realized along the way that, well, at least half of our neighborhood are renters. They don't come out to meetings very much, very few come out to meetings very much, and we want this organization to be in service to the whole neighborhood, not just homeowners. It's not a homeowners association. So we decided we would make some efforts to reach out to renters, and the plan was that we went door to door in some of the large apartment building complexes in the neighborhood and told them about the meeting, but mostly about the party, the celebration on Saturday, and invited them to come. And so that's why we're talking about renters. And then we also wanted to have a speaker who could speak to renting issues, because they're kind of very complicated in Eugene. So that was the plan for tonight. But I think it's gonna take more than a one-shot deal to get new faces here, so you gotta start somewhere. So if, when we went door to door, we invited people to, be sure to raise what their questions or issues are as renters, in the meeting, that this could be a forum for them to speak out if they needed to. So we generally, as John just said, go around the room, say your name, where you live, if you've lived there for a long time or a short time, whatever, and keeping it brief. So my name is Claire. I pay mortgage on a little bungalow on Horn Lane. And I've been on the board for too long. So whoever wants to step up and run for the board, you're welcome to do that. But I'm happy to be here and to be of service. John.
Okay, I'm John Belcher. I'm one of the co-chairs. I am neither a landlord nor a renter. I'm also paying a mortgage. I live off of Harbor, and I'm glad you're here.
Dan Isaacson, co-chair. I am a renter, but I have also been a homeowner and a landlord. I've checked all three of those boxes in my life. I've been on the board 2 years, been in the River Road area for 3 and going on 4.
I'm Kathy Brenner, owner. I don't have any property in Eugene that I'm renting. I do have a house over in Florence and it's not under the same rules at this time that the Eugene property is, but I'm curious to know how things will change this. You know, if the current changes in the laws for the Eugene area and, which seem to be following the Portland area are, going to expand, that could create a different scenario for me. So, thanks.
My name's Elliot. I'm an attorney with the Oregon Law Center. I'm a native Eugenian. I grew up in the Whitaker neighborhood. I now live in southeast. I once was part of naturally building a yoga studio on Horn Lane. But I'm here to talk to renters.
Yeah, Spencer, I live on Benjamin Street, just a few blocks away. I've been on the board a lot since 2000. Awesome experience. I rent 3 rooms in my house, so I'm not a renter, but I do rent 3 rooms in my house. And I'm glad to see everybody here.
I'm Gary Weaver. I live on Heritage Avenue. I'm a half owner of a house. My wife owns the other half, and I'm a landlord.
I'm Laura Sorrentis. This is my first, our RRCO community meeting. My husband and I moved to Anderson Lane beginning of last year. We purchased the house in 2019 and I guess we were landlords. We rented it for 2 years to 2 separate entities. And we used the Full House as our management company because we were still back in Maryland. But then mercifully, our second renter decided to buy a house and moved out right at the time we were ready to move in. So we didn't have to evict anybody or, it just worked out perfectly. And I'm here kind of for a different reason. I just started volunteering with the River Road Santa Clara Library. And we have so many books and so few people borrowing them that I'm sort of generally interested in kind of marketing about the library and spreading the love and getting people if possible.
I'm Jill Spencer, lived in River Road neighborhood for 10 years, the first year as a renter. Now we have a mortgage. We have rented out our property when my husband was on sabbatical. Here's the other side.
I'm Julie Hume, and my husband and I have lived in the River Road area for 40 years now. And we have 2 acres just near Maury Jacobs Park. And the original farmhouse we rent out. We were renters there for a long time on the property, and then converted to chicken coop. And then we purchased the property and we built a small ADU that we live in. And I'm very happy to say my sister is currently in our rental. And one of the things that we've done as a part of our commitment to the community is we've always had way below market value rental rates. So the 4 previous renters that lived in our rental were able to go on and buy their own houses. And I think that that's when we're able to do those kind of things, that's a real gift to the community.
Sure. Okay. We have enough people on Zoom.
But that,
Why don't you finish people in the room?
that's what I was trying to do when I invited you to speak. Go ahead, Brett.
And Beth Giroux, we lived in the River Road area for 40 years. Our home and business are on the corner of River Road and Rosetta. We've been in the home building business, building houses on our property for the last 20 years. We have a garage that has a studio above it that we began renting out about a half-dozen years ago. And we've been really fortunate to have great renters. First renter got married and moved. The second renter bought a house and moved.
And so we're on our third renter in that time. And it's just been a really good experience for us.
So there's several of us on Zoom, and I will try to highlight us as we speak. You are not seeing, the group here is not seeing as many as you could be. So I haven't quite figured out how to let folks see us. My name is Brenda. I'm on the board, and I'm the one that has the echo problem because I hear you and then I hear through the loop. So it's my ears that are echoing. And just remind me, it's my own personal problem. And I'm going to invite Misty. I'll call on the people.
Hi.
Misty, tell us who you are.
Misty. Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. My name is Misty and I am on the board of directors. And I haven't been at a meeting for a hot minute because I work on Monday
Fine,
night.
John, just relax. I'm working on it. No, she isn't.
Looks like on the screen.
Brenda, we can hear you.
I'm confused.
Just hang on a second, guys, and I will fix this.
They're working really hard, putting in extra hours trying to make this all smooth.
Misty, would you speak again? I'm sorry. Now people can hear you.
Brenda, you need to mute.
And Misty, we need you to say again what you said so the people can hear you.
Okay, my name is Misty and I'm on the board of directors for River Road and I live on Corliss Lane and I am a renter. I come from a long line of renters and it's been rough and I'm an advocate and hope things get better for everybody. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And Carolyn?
And I think we're hearing her.
That's you.
She's here. We're homeowners on Custer Court since 1965.
Wait a second, lost you. Is that Carolyn?
Yeah, that's Carolyn and I'm
Hang on.
Jerry.
Let me spotlight
We're
you
both
for
here.
I'm here. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm not quite moving around fast enough. Susan, are you able to speak and
Hi,
be visible
everybody.
for a minute?
Yeah, hi, everybody. I'm sorry I can't be visible, but my name is Susan Kittleson. I am on the board and I own a home with my husband on LK Drive. Thank you.
Charles C.
Hi, I'm Charles C. and I've lived in River Road for about 3 years. I'm currently one of the coordinators of Ready Northwest Eugene, which is emergency preparedness for River Road, Santa Clara, and Bethel. Take care.
Thank you. And I'm spotlighting CK Aron.
Hi, my name is Hava Cronin. I live on Brentwood. I've lived in the River Road area since '91. Was a homeowner on Horn Lane, rented rooms in my house, and I can happily say also that 2 of those tenants bought their own homes after that. Then I bought a much smaller house on Brentwood and occasionally rent a room out, not currently. But I am a housing outreach specialist for Head Start of Lane County. We serve over 1,000 families in Lane County. Many of those families live in the River Road area. I'm a housing advocate. I'm very happy to get an opportunity to meet and hear Elliot again. And I would be there in person, but I'm kind of still recovering from COVID. So thank you for this hybrid opportunity.
Thank you. And thank you for staying away and protecting us. It's that season. I have John is the last person.
Hi, this is John Q. I live in Southeast Eugene, and we own a home on Fox Hollow Road. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else on the Zoom that I didn't call on?
We
Unmute.
have future board member and kindergarten caucus chair Declan in the back.
Okay.
He's a tenant. He wants to be a landlord. We're working on it.
Okay, we will get rid of our little echo over here, and we should go back to proceed.
Now it's clear.
I started.
Okay, so announcements. Our big announcement is that we had a wonderful river celebration on Saturday. Who didn't? Who all came? I don't want to, I didn't make it. And Brenda has a little slideshow, so you can see the pictures. I don't know how many people showed up, maybe up to 500 altogether across the day. It's hard, I don't know, there's no way to count.
More than 100 for sure.
Oh, yeah, a lot more than 100. But, the reason why we held it is we wanted to first of all celebrate our biggest asset, which is the river, and all of the talents of this neighborhood, and to help our develop sense of community and bring people out of our little houses and apartments to interface with each other, interact and build, build connections with other neighbors. That was the purpose. We had 3 areas. One area down on Mary Lane was chosen because that's where people go to do dance and movement a couple times a week. So that's what happened there. Then we had near Stultz Avenue, we had a big meadow, that was the main hub of it, next to the Gilbert Grove, which Jen has cultivated for years and put a lot of energy into that space. So we celebrated that space with RRCO had a booth, Betty Northwest had a booth, we had an apple press, which was very popular, kids and elders pressing apples and making juice. We had a song circle that was a lot of fun. We had speakers, circle, conversation circles, playing bicycles. We had a fun game that Brenda brought, where people did the cornhole test, to get.
With valuable.
Yeah, I was getting there. To solicit, Dan and Brenda, particularly Brenda, got a lot of prizes from neighborhood businesses. So the business community participated really well. And all those prizes were given out. Plus we also had lollipops. I don't know how other schools were. We remembered we had to have kid prizes, which is good because there were a lot of kids, a lot of families. A lot of intergenerational stuff. And then further down Razor Park, where Becky Riley and Julie do a lot of work to cultivate native plants and milkweeds for monarch butterflies and things like that. The focus there was on the native local, what do you call it? Ecology, ecosystem. And kids doing hands-on science projects with river water and seeing what lives in the river water and looking at the bugs from the nets and honeybees stuff. So it was a magnificent, really community event. People helped make it happen, on the day of it. We had a lot of volunteers stepping up throughout the day and everybody was having a great time. So we're fortunate that we have a little bit of pictures.
Did you mention the cider press?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I was not listening carefully.
So here's the review. So the people who are organizers of it were Jan, Julie, myself, and Brenda. So that was the team there at the top, and then there's the cider press and the kids, and Clinton Bicycles had a bicycle safety check. And Jan stood on his, talked to people about permaculture. There's the prizes. There's the cornhole. There was a lot of fun. I didn't expect that to be such a great fun. That's a basket full of mini pretzels that Reality Kitchen gave and give to the community with. And
Susan brought the recycle and
right
trash.
Yeah, we had the plastics recycling project that Susan was on the board organizes. There's the Permaculture Information Center. These are 2 members of the new River Song community who were reading the book. And we had several rounds of authors reading from or discussing their content.
Steve came with climate friendly food and had lots of samples all day.
Yeah, people enjoyed those samples. Really lovely song circle. Let's see.
Emily came and brought bubbles.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know what all those pictures are, but as you can see, a lot of activities and a lot of fun. So we want to really be out more active, having fun in the community and building that sense of community. Is that funny person with the funny hat on?
That's my
And
grandson.
that weird guy next door.
Oh, the blue hat.
There's
There's Fraser Park.
That's okay.
Hands-on.
That was a lovely table that Julie set up of produce from people's gardens. That's the social justice committee at the top left. A lot of art projects for kids. They're making bookmarks with stickers and stuff. That's the apple juice.
There, 4 more minutes,
Okay, that's good. So
including announcements.
this is an announcement.
Okay.
And she told me it was a 3-minute announcement. So, are there any other announcements while we continue to enjoy the speeches?
Yes.
You have a major announcement that needs to come from Susan when we get a chance.
Okay. Anybody else have an announcement? Jill?
I coordinate things at the El Camino River Road School Garden, and we will be having another work party on Saturday, September 23rd from 9:30 a.m. to 12:30.
What did she say? I did.
Saturday, September 23rd. 9:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And I sent those dates to the board.
And didn't get a newsletter.
No, I just sent it yesterday.
Oh, okay.
I got it.
Okay.
John, you had your hand up?
Yeah, first of all, this is a non-announcement. We're supposed to report any board decisions that were made between this meeting and last for you guys to review if you wish. We don't have any. The other thing that's maybe more interesting is we have lawn signs for you for River Road Community Organization. They're free and you're welcome to take one.
And Jim.
As a follow-up to the event on Saturday, I'm having a site tour of my house. Talked about permaculture, various aspects of permaculture at the gathering there. And the follow-up is a site tour this Saturday from 1 until 3 at 212 Benjamin, to see what 20 years of permaculture can look like applied to a 1/4 acre suburban property. Rainwater catchment, passive solar, ADU, driveway taken out, edible landscaping, all kinds of stuff. And a little bit of a follow-up, I went to the filbert grove today and gathered a usable amount of filberts. And you have to understand that half of the nuts have bugs in them. But if you collect enough, and you can get a useful amount. And it's just so nice to be in the filbert grove. And just to remember, wow, the cider press was here, and the sewing circle was over there, and all this activity was going on. It was just really, it's kind of quiet now, but just to remember, you know, such a nice place, you know, to host those activities. So actually, it's a fairly good year for nuts. That doesn't mean you're gonna go down there with a shovel, you know, and get bags and bags of nuts, but if you go down there and you look around, you can find some.
And some of them have things in them. I took a handful home and they were all empty. Just depends on the tree. Yeah.
Huh, the school's got some, Susan,
Did you have an announcement?
Yes, everybody, this is.
Wait a minute, Susan, I don't have you making enough noise yet. It takes a little.
Now
you're good.
Okay, thank you. Everybody, I'm speaking on behalf of myself and the recycling co-chair, Kathy McGrath. We are very excited that our third annual plastics collection, at least the post-COVID plastics collection event, will happen on Sunday, October the 1st. We have partnered once again with our friends at Emerald Park, and we will be at the shelter right next to the children's pool. We encourage everyone to please join us. It is very important, though, that everyone understand that you need to bring number 2s, number 4s, and number 5s with the label removed and those items cleaned and separated. It's really critical that those happen, that those items happen, and that those items have labels removed and everything be separate so we can move you through the line quickly. If you bring items that still have labels or have any other issues, we will need to have you step to the side so we can have you take care of that while we take care of other folks. Please bring number 2s that are smaller than a tennis ball. Any number 2 over the size of a tennis ball, any number 2 jug can go into your recycling bin. So bring us your vitamin bottles. Those are number 2s. Please take the label off. And any number 2s that are like your Tide bottle, your shampoos, those go in your commingled recycle bin. So please don't bring those to us. And we look forward to seeing you once again, October 1st. And I wanted to say thank you to the 12 volunteers that are going to be assisting us once again in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Yes.
So September is Suicide Awareness Month. Putting on my suicide prevention coordinator hat and co-chair and the NAMI hat that I wear. We got a bunch of signs for this called the Signs for Hope campaign. Signs for Hope campaign is, we did it right in the middle of COVID, which was really successful. And we did a sign waving event on Ferry Street Bridge. We're gonna do it again in 2 weeks. The signs are great. They go right on your lawn. They say things like, don't give up, your mistakes don't define you. Things that really kind of give your neighbors some hope, and they're nice things for your yard. We have 500 for the county. We have some allocated for the outlying areas. We don't want it to be just a Eugene Springfield thing. We want, especially for folks in our rural areas, to get these things. So I was going to talk to John and the group about doing a small little presentation in the next month or so on the campaign and about mental health just in general. KEZI is going to be doing a very in-depth, long piece. It's actually 15 minutes long, which for a local newscast is pretty substantial. We're going to break it into 2 different segments. So it'll be coming up here in the next week or so. We've been working for 2 years on getting this project up and going. Sure. As a reminder, the suicide rate in Lane County is 4 times greater than 84% of the counties in the country. We are last in mental health funding. We're first in addiction. And last in mental health resources and addiction resources. I'll give you a little more statistics. In 1975, we had 7,500 hospital beds for those who need permanent or long-term mental health care. We have 612 now. Our population that has doubled in size. We went from 2 million to 4 million people. And our drug of choice is methamphetamine, which is a psychosis-inducing drug. So we have more people who need that care, less resources to be able to provide that care. And every day we see the ramifications out there. So the more that you can give just the slightest little bit of a nudge to tell people it's okay, it's going to be okay, and work through it, the more you'll have an impact. So we'll get those signs out. They're from the county, so we should definitely thank the Lane County Public Health for helping us secure those signs. And you'll start seeing them in your neighborhood soon.
Thank you.
Great. And Dan, I'm gonna unmute so I can
Be heard too.
Dan is has been working on some videos, and I'm going to share just a couple. He's been working on.
We are now leading into our guest speaking time.
This is important because it previews next meeting,
Okay,
and I
go
think
for it.
we'll manage that, John.
Thanks, Elliot.
You're not billing us, right? I got asked about the lawyer. So while she's queuing that up, so the idea behind this is that we drive on River Road every day, and we pass by small businesses that we may not even know exist. And these are folks who, you're not sending money off to some conglomerate somewhere. You're paying for some kids' braces or a car payment or a mortgage payment or rent payment. And these are folks who don't have a huge budget. They're not gonna get commercial on KZI, they're not gonna be on radio. So I used to own a drone photography company in Chicago, and I have all the supplies and stuff, and I have some free time in my hands, so I thought we'd create a little mini yellow book of micro shopping here in Lane County. So we're gonna have about 10 of these things. Maybe 20 this year, and build on it from there. So if you know a small business owner that would like their business featured, we're trying to stay away from adult themed. So dispensaries, there's shops down there, it makes filming awkward. Then we'll stay with those. But you know, secondhand store, Lunches to Go, which is great. Flinks is wonderful. Global Delights is a wonderful coffee shop. And we're just gonna build on from there.
We'll have to discuss that technical glitch for next time.
Okay.
Thanks for your comments.
Okay. Thank you. So we're gonna turn it over to Elliot, and if you come sit here, Elliot, we'll hear your pearls of wisdom.
Do you have my PowerPoint?
I do.
You need support, John, to show support.
We'll see.
That's not mine.
Oh, that's the other one. You're right. That is the one we don't want to show.
Bobby Joe has their hand up.
Okay.
Bobby Joe has that.
Their hand up.
Yeah.
Bobby Joe, hang on a minute till I put my hearing things in and I can hear your question.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the
Yes,
hearing,
what's your
the
question?
sound is very low from the room. I was just wondering, our last
hearing you.
guest mentioned businesses coming in, and what about a supermarket? I'm old enough to remember
Shall we start?
Oregon
Bobby Joe, you're
Foods
muted.
on
We'll come back to you.
Maxwell.
So,
I'm listening to her. Okay, you guys go ahead.
well, I'd like to have this display before I go.
That's a good idea.
Dan, can you give him any help on that?
You need to give me permission to show it, Brenda.
Oh, there's the keys, so she's getting them.
Okay, doke.
Right.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me you needed that. So, sorry, Bobby, this is John Twenty moving forward. We'll have to chat another time, and that's a great idea.
Great,
Good.
thanks. Okay, so I'm gonna talk for a while. I'm particularly interested, I think there's two runners in this meeting, Misty and John. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know somehow. I do have a question section, but feel free to let me know if they come up before that. If it's okay with you, I'll just push that button when I need to, starting now.
Let me ask you a question. They will ask questions by writing them in the chat.
Yeah, sure, great.
So do you want me to interrupt you or save them for the end? They have a question as you're going.
I might see it, but you can wave at me.
I'm not gonna, I mean, if I bring the chat up for you to see, you're seeing,
When somebody sends a message, it pops up there for a second,
okay,
but you're right, I won't always see. So you can wave at me.
okay.
So I'm gonna start with a disclaimer, because I'm a lawyer, and that's one of the things we do. And then I'm gonna talk a little about legal aid and what we do at legal aid, because lots of people like to refer to us, and if you're a low-income person who needs the right referral, then it's better if you get the right referral. Then I'm gonna talk about habitability. So I was supposed to talk about renters' rights, and I could talk all day about renters' rights, which entertains some people more than others. So I'm gonna focus on just a couple things: habitability, the eviction process, and some new protections, the Eugene phase 2 protections. There's also phase 1, which I didn't specifically write about, but I did bring some handouts for tenants and their city, so anybody can have them. And then I'll take questions, and then maybe we'll talk about fair housing a little bit, although I guess it depends on how fast the time goes. So as a disclaimer, this is all general legal information and not individualized legal advice. I'm not your lawyer. If you're a low-income tenant with a legal problem, you can call our office at 541-485-1017. Or if your landlord's filed an eviction case, you can call our eviction defense project, which is a statewide project. And our office is the Lane County office of the Oregon Law Center, so we cover all of Lane County. And at our office, we help low-income folks with a variety of legal problems. We help domestic violence survivors with family law. We help people who are having trouble maintaining their government benefits. We help people with immigration issues. I like to do expungements, and I like to do housing law. Brenda, do you have an idea if the people can hear me clearly?
I think they can, or they would be chatting.
They might be letting you know. Jan,
Can you guys hear?
I'll get there. Actually, I think I took that out. So okay, I'll tell you now. Expungement is a little vague because it could be talking about expungement of your eviction case, but really what I mean is expungement of your criminal record. If you have a prior felony or misdemeanor conviction, many of them are eligible for expungement after some amount of time has passed, and I enjoy expunging people's convictions.
So that means make them disappear?
That means make them legally be gone. And then you don't have to say you have had one.
Yeah, thank you.
And it helps a lot for getting jobs and housing in the future. So when I say low income, I mean 125% of federal poverty or below. And we consider all low income folks in Lane County as our client population. So when we think about what kinds of cases to take, we think, how does this help our client population? In family law, we only provide services to victims of ongoing domestic violence. We provide assistance with contested restraining orders. And with divorce and custody cases where there's ongoing domestic violence. With government benefits, we do a bunch of different things. We help people with contested unemployment hearings. If your long-term care hours get cut by the state, if you get denied Medicaid benefits,
he can't do that.
lose Social Security, or if they accuse you of having an overpayment. We don't do initial denials of Social Security benefits. We're not trying to eat the lunch or the private bar, and we don't do special needs trusts. In housing law, we like doing eviction defense. I'm saying we like doing extreme habitability cases because there's a lot of habitability cases and we only have so many attorneys. I like to attack the illegal lease provisions that affect many tenants, and we like fair housing cases. We're particularly interested in larger professional landlords in preserving housing subsidies for tenants who have Section 8 vouchers, in mobile homeowners who have a lot more skin in the game if they get evicted. Helping super vulnerable tenants such as victims of domestic violence or sexual assault. And we're also interested in exposure to rural properties because they have a little harder time getting to us than the people in Eugene and Springfield. So thanks for listening to me talk about myself. Hope that wasn't too long and painful. So for habitability, here's a big list of things in the statute. It's not everything in the statute, but it's most of the things in the statute. The statute, ORS 90.320, just has a list of things that have to be either maintained in good working order or provided at the start of the tenancy, or installed correctly and maintained. Working plumbing, hot and cold running water, heat, and just plugging in a wall heater, like space heater doesn't count. Electric wiring and lights working correctly. Working keys and locks. Weatherproofing, a lot of people call us and talk about mold, and what they, every landlord says the tenants always cause the mold, and every tenant always says the landlord always causes the mold. And really, I only get excited if there's a weatherproofing issue, which often if there's a bad mold issue, it's it's like there's a leak or there's, I remember when I was first starting visiting a house where there was just like in the corner, there was just this kind of, I don't know the word, but a triangle of mold coming down right across from a leaky pipe. So weatherproofing causes mold issues, I'm sure you all know. If a landlord provides appliances at the beginning of the tenancy, they have to maintain them or replace them if they fail. And they have to provide the home vermin or trash free at the start of the tenancy. If vermin or trash encroach during the tenancy, there's an argument about who caused it or why. And then they have to provide a smoke or carbon monoxide detector if there's a source of natural gas.
Is the protection that's accrued to renters the same if you're a city or a county resident?
This is, so until I get to my new stuff, this is all ORS 90, which is state
Okay.
law. It's based on the Uniform Residential Landlord Tenant Act, which is adopted in many states, but it's been heavily rewritten since then. And it's my little playpen. Tenants have duties, they have to keep the unit clean, they have to prevent the accumulation of garbage, vermin, and rodents after the tenancy begins. Although vermin is really interesting because a lot of times when we see it, it's like big apartment complexes, and it's really hard to say where it came from if it's in a big apartment complex. There's also some perverse incentives where if like some landlords, if the tenant reports that there's cockroaches in their unit, they come down hard and make them pay for a lot of extermination. But if they don't report it, then the next thing you know, it's in 5 units, and then it's a lot more extermination. So anyway, that's, yeah, multifamily vermin cases are weird. Tenants have to test and replace smoke detector batteries every 6 months. They have to not cause damage and tell the landlord if there's a maintenance problem. I warn tenants not to let things go unreported, to report and keep it in writing so that landlords don't come down at them later for, you know, gradual problems that snowball and fall the lease. I tell tenants always make requests for repairs in writing, keep a copy. For 3 reasons. One is it starts the clock for damages. If it doesn't get fixed for a long time and you sue your landlord for damages, it's very clear to the judge when the clock for damages starts if you make a timely repair request. It also stops the clock for duty to mitigate, and that's related to, you know, if there's a leak in a wall and you move out, the landlord might say you caused this damage by failing to report it. And everybody has the duty to mitigate damages, although that's somewhat questionable. It's less likely to happen if you report it. And if you report in writing, keep a copy, then it makes it harder for a landlord to retaliate for repair requests. If the landlord doesn't fix it, it feels weird to give this presentation to mostly landlords. Document. In Eugene, call the rental housing program. Wow, there's a typo there, sorry. If you're on section 8, you can ask for an inspection from the housing authority. There's a provision to repair and deduct where you can tell your landlord, hey, you don't fix this in the next couple weeks, I'm gonna fix it. And when I do, I'm gonna deduct $300 from my rent. And that provision probably made some sense when it was added to the code like 15, 20 years ago. $300 doesn't get you very far in repairs these days, but it probably gets you something. You have to do it, it has to be done in a professional manner by a professional, and you invoice the landlord basically and then withhold it from your rent, which you can do without permission if it's $300 or less. Otherwise, yeah. Or you can give a repair conditional termination notice. This is kind of a cool thing. You say most termination notices are from the landlord to the tenant, but the tenant can actually say, hey, this is not habitable in this way. You're failing to provide me heat. You just got these space heaters plugged into the wall, or you haven't fixed this hot water problem I complained about, 2 weeks ago. And if you don't fix it within 30 days, or if it's an essential service, I think 10 days, I forget, maybe a little less than that, 7 days. Then I'm terminating the rental agreement. The rental agreement's terminated, which is a good way if a tenant wants to get out of a lease without a lease break fee and there's something wrong. And you can sue your landlord for damages. You can do that while you're in the unit or after you've left, and you can withhold rent. Is that exciting to you, landlords? It is legal to withhold rent. Legal to withhold rent, and if you sue them for non-payment, then they can pay the rent into court and then assert their counterclaim. And even if they lose their counterclaim, if all the rent that was owing was paid into court before the court action starts, they still win. But it's dangerous. Tenants often withhold rent and then spend it. And that's no good for paying it into court, or they don't, it's playing with fire, which is why there's an exclamation point there in rents. Because as soon as you withhold rent, you're probably heading to court. So it's good to have a lawyer before you do it. Any tenants want to ask me any questions? I'm just going to blaze through this whole thing, which is okay. 7:48, I'm going to talk about evictions now. Hope you landlords don't feel left out, though.
No, it might be landlords, but we're also members of the community and we like our renter neighbors.
Good.
We like to be able to be educated.
Good. Termination notice types. So these are the notices where the tenant hasn't done anything. You have a no cause notice. during the first year of tenancy with 30 days to cure. Although there's a wrinkle on that for city tenancies now. Sorry, 30 days not to cure, but 30 days to leave. If you live in the same, if there's like a, you know, you have the ADU, they have the main house, you have the main house, they have the ADU. If it's a property with 2 dwelling units on it, you can give a 60-day notice even after the first year. But otherwise, after the first year, there's no cause notices anymore. And you got to do a 4-cause notice. Yeah. Brenda, I don't see it. Okay, sorry. So, and you've got, so there's what's called landlord causes. There's 4 90-day ones. One is you intend to demolish the unit or convert it into other than residential purposes. One is you intend to repair it and it'll be unsafe or unfit for occupancy during the repair or is currently. One is you're gonna move into it or a family member is gonna move into it. One is that you've accepted an offer to purchase and the new owner is moving in. And one thing that we got a lot right after Senate Bill 608 passed was people thought they could just say, I'm planning to sell it and do this. You can't do that. You have to actually accept an offer to purchase from someone who intends to move in before you can use this. And you have to pay relocation for this, even without the city ordinance, if you own 5 or more dwelling units.
So if you have one, you're not a big renter, you have one tenant landlord. You have 1 unit, someone's in there, you don't have to pay them 3 months of rent if you ask them to leave or.
So statewide relocation is 1 month. In the city, you now have to pay 2 months unless there's exemptions. But statewide, you wouldn't have to pay if you only have 1 rental. Termination notice types. So these are some 4-cause notices. So there's the kind of the catch-all 30-day notice, and that's for a material lease violation. So it's really flexible. You see smoking or loud noises or fighting with your neighbors in a not super violent way. That's 30 days, and we call it a 30-14 because you have 14 days to cure, or they have to leave in 30 days. And then if they cure, but then the conduct recurs within the next 6 months, you can give them a 10-day no cure, repeat violation notice under the same statute. And then for non-payment of rent, there's a 10-day notice for that too. It used to be 72 hours, now it's 10 days. And there's a 24-hour notice for serious crimes or threats, like burglary, assault causing serious bodily injury, substantial, I forget if it's serious. There's like 3 standards in the law. One is criminal, one is this statute, and one is like in domestic violence situations, and they all have slightly different words for almost the same thing. But it means like serious.
I have a question. To the part of this, like if I'm renting not the whole house, but just a couple of rooms in my house, does it still apply?
Brenda, I don't want to answer that question because that's not a question from a renter.
Provide a rental. I don't have an answer.
Okay, well, there's the Rental Owners Association of Blaine County, who's happy to answer your question. And I can also recommend an attorney if you'd like to know about an attorney.
Okay.
So there's a lot, landlords have a lot more resources to get legal help than tenants. And I would not have been here to provide a presentation for 2 renters if I had known I was providing a presentation for 2 renters on a lot of landlords.
Sorry about that.
That's okay, it's not your fault, John. And I could have been more clear.
If we own our own home that we live in, we're not landlords.
Okay, so Brenda asked if she's renting rooms out in her home.
I hear that specific.
Yeah.
But don't assume everyone's a landlord.
Well, I wrote it down.
Right.
Brenda didn't say, but okay. Eviction process. Begins, tenant violates the lease. The landlord, so the reason I have this is some people don't know when they've been evicted. Some people, and I've had this on both sides, but people get a termination notice and they think I've been evicted. And some people call those eviction notices. when you give someone a notice to leave. And some people, you know, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Can I talk about what we were talking about just at the very beginning? Oh, Kathy. Kathy told me that she sometimes gave people a referral, a no-cause referral or another kind of referral. So I think there's some confusion about when exactly a termination notice, what a termination notice is, and when you get from a termination notice to an eviction. So there can be a violation. When a tenant violates a rental agreement, a landlord can choose to do various things. They could do nothing, although they'd risk waiver. They can give a violation notice, which just is a warning. Or they can choose to give a termination notice. And there's, as we talked about before, there's a lot of different kinds. I didn't do all of them. But once they choose to give a termination notice, sometimes the termination notice can be cured. And if but sometimes cures are not allowed, or sometimes the tenant fails to cure. If the tenant fails to cure but leaves, then there's no eviction. It's just, that's the tenancy ends. But if the tenant fails to cure and overstays, then we get to court. Well, optionally, the landlord can still at that point, and often landlords, you know, give a termination notice, nothing happens, and they just never file on it. But if they choose to file on it, they file a case in the circuit court usually, or Florence has a justice court that'll take evictions. And then there's first appearance, which is set 7 or 15 days after the next court day after filing. And the difference between those is that there's a separate timeline for non-payment evictions. Non-payment evictions are much slower than regular evictions, than other kinds of evictions. Trial is set within 15 days after first appearance, or between 15 and 30 days after first appearance, again, depending on whether it's a non-payment eviction or another kind of eviction. And then after that, a notice of restitution, if the tenant loses at trial, a notice of restitution can be issued by the landlord, which says, now you really got to give it back. And the tenant has 4 more days at that point. And if they don't leave at that point, then the landlord can get a writ of execution from the court, which is served by the sheriff, and the sheriff puts the tenant out on the street. And I think I put in some calendars. Okay, so back in January 2019, for example, if the rent was late on Saturday the 5th, so the rent's due on the 1st, it's late on the 5th, but you can't give notice till the 8th. And then back then it was a 72-hour notice. So back then you could file an FED on the 11th. And then, so that gives you the next, the FED, the first appearance for the FED is going to be the first court day after, 7 days after the first court day after the notice is filed. So that would be the 21st, but here in Lane County, they don't do first appearances usually on a Monday, so it would be the 22nd. And then back in those days, they would set trial sometimes just 2 or 3 days after first appearance. So I said trials on Friday the 25th. Notice of restitution is issued then. We go 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th is 4 days, and then the sheriff can lock you out on the 30th for not paying rent in January. And that's also, well, yeah, that's a 72-hour notice. So everything has different timelines. So that gives you an idea of what the old timeline was for non-payments. And non-payments in January 2024, unless the law changes before then, which you never know, but there's not a legislative session scheduled, so there has to be an emergency. Rent's late on the 5th, you can still give notice on the 8th, but now it's a 10 days, so you can't file till the 18th. And once you filed, we don't have first appearance until February 5th. You set it for trial, trial's not till the 20th. And then the notice of restitution is longer, but that's just because it expires on a Saturday, so they can't get the lockout till the Monday. And anybody have any ideas about why it's so long now? And why it's so long specifically for non-payments? Go ahead. COVID? Yeah, COVID was wild. The law was changing all the time. But what was going on during COVID? Does anybody Anybody get rent assistance for any tenants?
People didn't have jobs, they didn't pay. They didn't get it.
Anybody get rent assistance? What's that?
Renters got assistance.
Right, and they paid it, well, so most rent assistance companies write the check to the landlord. So did anybody have tenants who got rent assistance?
I can't tell you, you're speaking too fast, I can't hear what you asked.
Sorry,
It's
All
the
right.
echo in my, because I'm hearing.
okay. Sometimes I talk too fast, even for people who aren't echoing. Did anybody have a tenant during COVID or at all who had to pay through rent assistance? You did? Did you have to do a lot of back and forth with the company and sign stuff?
It was handled through the Lane County.
Uh-huh.
And their office, dealt with all of the payments. I had to fill out a little form to get things started to confirm that she was indeed,
Yeah.
eligible. And then the federal, agency, it came through CARES money.
Uh-huh.
So the federal agency dealing with that, giving it to the county, sent me a long questionnaire to fill out. After she had been there for 3 weeks or so, but the county was the one doing the actual negotiating with me. And, no, it worked quite smoothly, except that, they wanted to pay several months, up to 6 months at a time. She was there for a total of 9 months and, had only initially signed a 3 months contract. But within the first month, the county contacted me to see if I would agree to have her stay for an extra 6 months, and it was guaranteed funding. She seemed to be an okay renter, so I agreed. But all of the dealings were done with the county per se, and it was after that, it was when she had decided to move out. She wanted to move to Eugene to be with her family. The federal government sent me a survey to fill out on how it went. And, so the only problem that I had while she was there that I could, say was serious enough that I'm usually pretty lenient about small stuff, but there was a problem with rats after she got into the house. Had to deal with neighbors who had chickens. They decided to bring in the chicken coops, and here come the rats. So the neighborhood had a problem, and I got on that one right away. I don't want that. So she was very cooperative. We had I had hired a fellow to come in, exterminator to come in and take care of it. He needed to come in on his schedule. It was fairly frequent for the first couple of months. And once he felt he had it under control, then it was less frequent. But and she was very cooperative for the first couple of months. And I don't know if it was, there was something mentally that just went sideways. She changed personalities. She became very uncooperative. It was very difficult to get any kind of a positive response from her. She had been so positive when she moved in. I was, hopeful this was all going to work out very well, but I don't know. I found, one time I do monthly mold and mildew inspections on the house because I have had problems with that. And so I do, that is just part of the agreement they sign when I have someone come in. And I was there one time and she had open containers of garbage by the front door. There are provided garbage cans.
I'm sorry, so just about the rent assistance process.
Okay.
Was that,
So
you said it was pretty smooth?
This relates to it because I wrote her one email after she had agreed to be cooperative and had been for a while. She knew this was a problem and, I wrote, so I did put it in writing. I sent her an email. And, she, after that, it was hostility. It was not just, there was something, she had taken it personally, and I think it is because her assistants had depended on the reports that she got from the landlord to the federal, and she knew what that looked like, what the reference looks like. There were only 4 questions asked. Was the payment due on time or paid on time? Was they clean? Was there any excessive noise complaints? And did they ever, did you ever have to send them a written notice asking for, cooperation on some disciplinary problem of, within the realms of the house, the maintenance of the house? And that one email, was enough to throw her off base. But, I realized that was what it had done. She was moving anyway. So I didn't file a problem on record with the federal government because she would need that money. And, since they're basing their assistance on full questions, I thought that would be, really punitive. She had no income. So basically I felt that it would be unfair of me, to punish her for that, in the future, to make it difficult for her to find another housing situation. But she came to Eugene and found a job, so life is good. So
How long between when she was interested in rent assistance, or when you first heard about the rent assistance, to when you got a check?
about 3 weeks.
About 3 weeks.
But
So
from there, it was, they didn't mess around. It was 3 months at a time in one check.
Right.
They didn't want, and the second one was 6 months in one check.
So, so the reason I ask is that's basically why this happened. Do you mind? Did I do that?
No, I did that because I'm a person online that has a question also. So, and I wanted you to be sure and see the comment by one of the chat people who said she's been helping with that, and she has a question. So when you're ready to take a question,
Is that
online has a question.
Is that Pavo? Okay, so the reason that we came to this compromise in the legislature is that there's a right of redemption in FEDs now, in non-payment FEDs, where a tenant can pay the amount that's due on the notice to stop the eviction. And it takes a while for rent assistance. And during the pandemic, I worked with an eviction defense project statewide, where there was selection bias because we didn't work with the tenants who were having an easy time with nice landlords. We worked with the tenants who were getting evicted, landlords who wouldn't talk to them. And a lot of landlords just didn't want to cooperate with rent assistance. And so now there's this long timeline so that there's time for the bureaucracy, and it's not as long as it was. The original version of the bill that turned into this timeline had a 60-day pause if a tenant requested rent assistance, which used to be the law. So now the process is long, in part so that tenants have time to apply for rent assistance, and rent assistance has time to get to the landlord before the tenancy is terminated.
Okay, are you ready for a question?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead and unmute.
All right, well, first of all, I'm speaking as an advocate, not a homeowner, and I'm not a landlord. Do these laws apply to housing providers like Homes for Good and St. Vincent de Paul?
Which laws?
These that you're talking about, like relocation assistance for no-cause evictions, the newer laws that have passed.
The city, phase 2 laws, which I think is what you're talking about. What I'm talking about right now is how slow a non-payment eviction is, and that's House Bill 2001, which is statewide. But the city enhanced relocation does not apply to units of affordable housing. And affordable housing is defined to be housing that is guaranteed to be affordable under guidelines established by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development to households that earn no more than 80% of the median household income for the city of Eugene for a period of at least 20 years. So homes for good, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
They don't have to, Homes for Good does not have to give extra relocation when they give people no cause eviction.
Does that answer your question or address your question, Hava?
No, I mean, it answers the question. I think it's unfortunate, but that's how it is. That's how the law is written. So, okay.
Yeah, although Homes for Good, like project-based Homes for Good housing, projects that Homes for Good owns, generally they can't use no cause eviction in those anyway, because they're good cause properties. And if somebody has a portable Section 8 voucher and they're renting on the private market, then that's not, then the relocation still would apply.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Elliot.
you. Thanks for coming. Yeah, now I'm going to talk about phase 2. So anybody who's not interested in what's happening in the city of Eugene can tune out. Security deposits are now capped for tenancies for the city of Eugene to 2 months rent. You can do an extra 1 month's rent for a pet deposit or for someone who doesn't meet the screening requirements. If your screening requirements aren't illegal, you can do an extra month's rent to say, well, you don't meet my screening requirements, but I'll give it to you anyway if you pay an extra month. And then there's some contract modifications that I'm not really sure exactly what I mean by that. First come, first served is now a thing, unless the owner lives there, unless it's not publicly advertised, unless it's not, an affordable unit. But otherwise, you need to write down, you need to say, when you post a property, you need to say the period during which you'll take applications. And during that period, you got to write down every application you get when you got it, and you got to go in order, which is pretty wild. They started that in Portland, and now we got it here in Eugene. And stay tuned. I mean, if you have property in other parts of Oregon, that may be on the menu in the next long session.
So owner occupied, would that include ADUs?
Yeah. I think so. I'm not 100%. You can check. Here's the ordinance. This is the tenant. I'm gonna give you one of these tenant education information. I think it's right in there.
Thanks.
I say probably because there's this one. I'm slimming it down a little bit, and there's this one, the first come first served, which has 4 exceptions, I think, and then the next one, relocation, has 11 exemptions. So if it was relocation, I'd say definitely with the ADUs. I'm not 100% sure of the last one. Relocation, 2 months rent from your landlord if they give a no cause eviction, including a 90-day landlord cause. And an interesting thing about this is you've got to give the relocation 90. You gotta. I think you need to give the relocation 90 days before. Let me just look. I just read this today. Yeah, you've got to give the termination notice 90 days before the termination date. So what that means for the first year of occupancy under state law, you could give tenants a 30-day termination notice. But in the city, you now have to give a 90-day termination notice, or you're in violation of the relocation ordinance. Even if you pay the relocation within 30 days, if you didn't pay it within 90 days, you're in violation. And that means that I can sue you for damages, or your tenant can. And so it applies if you give a no cause in the first year, a landlord cause after the first year. If you refuse to renew a lease, And there's like this weird back and forth where you can say, hey, I'm planning to not renew your lease. And they can say, okay, well then I want reload. Or they can say, will you please renew my lease? Let's talk about it. And then you can say, okay, fine, I'll renew your lease. I don't have to pay you reload. Or you can say, no, here's the reload. And then if you increase the rent the maximum amount, then the tenant can request reload. And if they said, so you increase the rent the maximum amount, then they say, well, that's a lot of rent. I'm gonna leave, give me reload. Then you have to give them the reload or else they don't have to pay the increased rent. But if you do give them reload and they don't leave, then they have to give it back. So it's like a little bit back and forthy. I mean, this is a really complicated, I mean, yeah. And then there's 11 exemptions. The city council like had a lot of meetings and they went back to committee a lot of times. And Councilor Mike Clark said, we haven't thought about this enough. Have you considered this situation? And they said, oh, okay, I guess we'll have one more exemption. Many times, and they got to 11, and here we are. What's that?
Are you about to give us the 11 exceptions?
I mean, no. Do you want me to? That's so many for a slideshow.
I thought that's what you said, and here we go.
Oh, they're in here.
Yeah, it's okay.
11's a lot. Okay. Questions, especially from renters?
Well, I'm not a renter, but it had to do with your slide. And that was, is the maximum rent, that you can increase rent 7% still per annum?
No, it's 7% plus the consumer price index for the Western region as reported by somebody in the California. But it's now capped at 10%. So back in February, it was 14.6%. So that I think it was 7.6% was the consumer price index rent. And then plus 7% is 14.6. And that made a lot of people's heads explode. And they went to Salem and they said, we need a cap. How about a 5% cap? And some other people in Salem said that's absurd. And they fought for a long time and the Republicans walked out, and the Republicans came back, and now we got a 10% cap. So it's 7%, between 7 and 10. That's the max. You can always increase rent by less. But also, new rule, you can only do one per year. It used to be you could do a 3% and then another 3%, and then maybe a 2%, you know, if you did it, you could do one every 3 months or so. Nobody did that except, yeah. I like doing that because then I can do a lot of math.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Someone on Zoom asked if we would be sending out your documents to attendees, and I said we don't have the capacity to do that, but I would be able to put it on. If I had your PowerPoint email to me, I could put it on the website for our members.
John has the tenant education information and the resource guides.
It's also recorded.
Not your
He actually does have my PowerPoint, and I guess it's recording.
Send the video. Recorded.
Oh, yeah, and I don't know where.
And it's up to you, Elliot, if you want me to post it to the neighbor.
That would not be my preference.
Pardon?
That would not be my preference. The video is fine, but I'd rather you didn't post it.
Okay.
And we can talk about discrimination for a minute, or we could stop. What do you want to talk about discrimination, or you want to stop?
I'll throw a question at you.
Oh, great. Thanks. You're one of my two.
I actually have a friend who's going to go to right now.
Oh, yeah.
So they had a disagreement with the landlord at the out in Covert, still in the city. Anyway, so they got non-payment here because they thought they could just withhold the rent if it wasn't repairs being made. Obviously not correct. It wasn't. It was the deadbolt is locked fully. It was like locked 2/3 of the way. So there's debate as to whether or not the lock was functional or not. So anyway, so you have non-payment cure, and so he was told today, that's it, you gotta go. And so he's wondering how much time he has from the day of today when he's been told that's it.
Who told him that's it?
The landlord.
Well, has the landlord filed a case in court yet?
I don't think so, no.
Then he has until the landlord gets it together. And longer, because if he has the rent that was withheld, he can just pay the landlord the rent to redeem his tenancy. And if
they haven't filed it, you can cure it.
well, you definitely can cure it after they filed it. So if the landlord has, you know, is not living like it's 2018, the landlord should take it now and not file, because the landlord has to pay to file. And if the landlord files and your friend gets somebody like me, then I'll take attorney fees from the landlord. Yeah, and it'll still get dismissed. If your friend's low income, they should call our number.
Yeah.
And if they're not low income and the landlord files, they should consider that there's some sharks in Portland.
So, frequently, as kind of more of a neighborhood issue, there's a tenant who's problematic, like it's a drug house, basically there's drug houses. And so, what is the best way to approach that issue as neighbors and people who live next to them?
I don't think I have a good answer for that.
Are they owners?
No, they're the tenants. The tenants are not behaving legally.
They'd have to get arrested, then they could be illegal.
Yeah. If you complain to the landlord today, they don't have any recourse.
This is not my side. Yeah, sorry. You could ask the rental owner association, or I could recommend a couple landlord attorneys if you're interested.
I'm not interested in insurance.
We're the worst. Go ahead.
I'm kind of an eco kind of guy.
Awesome.
And, on the occasion I put, looking for a housemate ad, like on Craigslist.
Yeah.
It's a fairly lengthy,
I bet.
like no smoking, vegetarian, I even give a break for people who don't have a car. But eco lifestyle, could somebody respond and say, I smoke, I eat meat, you can't discriminate against me if you don't rent me a place, I'm gonna sue you.
Owner occupied folks don't have to do first come, first serve. So if you're renting out a room in your house, you're okay. But if you said no blacks in your ad and somebody said, I'm black, can I rent there anyway? And you said no, then we'd come for you.
Yeah, kind of good things.
I see Bobby Joe Newton has raised her hand. But go ahead.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I just, I don't have a question so much as just I so totally appreciate these initiatives because.
Is it in Eugene?
The one
Probably,
thing I did
unless
not
there's some
see-
exemption. You should call the rental owners association.
Yeah.
Or I also be happy to refer you to an attorney if you're interested.
I'm trying to do this.
Okay.
Okay, the one thing I did not see was,
It's harder to do now.
excuse me,
Do you have a tenant in there now?
I have a tenant.
Well, then you might, okay. You should talk to the renter owners association.
Are you ready to?
I present to the renters owners association. If you think I'm like horrendously partisan, just FYI, anyway, go ahead.
Are you ready to listen to
Bobby's question?
I'd
Bobby
love
Joe's
to let
question.
Bobby speak.
Okay. I think you can speak now. Try.
yeah, I just want, first I want to say thank you for all of.
I'm gonna
these.
stop
These are
sharing
all-
and you could see her.
These are all long overdue moves. One thing I did not see, and excuse me, one thing I did not see was anything about the scale of rent, which is making people homeless every day. We lost a very popular community member to his own hand, but we lost him to rent increases. Essentially, he was being forced out of his house and onto the street, somewhere in his late 60s with alcoholism, number of problems. There was no way this person who'd been living peacefully in his home for years would be able to continue being housed. Is there any way to address the scale of rent increases?
Yeah, I mean, there's a cap on rent increases that tenants, that got passed in Senate Bill 608. But it's still unaffordable, and really we need more housing. And regulating landlords more won't create more housing, but it stops landlords from being as predatory as they can get away with housing as constrained as it is. Stops bad actors from that. So we need more housing. We need, next time, you guys are a neighborhood board. So housing applications come to you. Developers say, we want to put in some stuff. You say, well, that'll mess up the view and that'll change the character of the neighborhood, and that's not low income. If it increases density, it's good for the housing crisis, in my opinion.
That already been pulled anyway.
Well, good. Glad to hear it. Bill, that's what we need to do, in my opinion. I'm not a land use degree, I just have a law degree and I'm a pain, but. Okay, well, I think I'm gonna leave unless anybody wants to ask me any more questions.
Well, thank you for your presentation and fielding the questions.
Thank you for your tolerance. Yeah. I guess, do you want to leave these?
Leave me one.
Okay.
So I know what I need to put out there. Thank you
Yeah,
so much. I
if that were,
apologize for the
if
number of
something like
people.
that were available as a link,
That's the way it works.
if we could get a link like that, we could put it on our website. That would be
We will.
helpful. Okay.
Don't forget your.
Oh, wait, I see a question. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Martha.
it's not a question for Elliot. I'm just curious, since we're talking about building. I live off of Maxwell, and I've noticed a lot of heavy earth moving equipment near the Valley Restaurant supply store in that big empty lot next to the storage unit place. Does anyone at River, do any of you know what the plan is for that property? Are they going to be developing it? I didn't see notices going up, so I'm just curious.
We think it's street repair.
Be a great place for a tiny village community. It's a big enough property.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't be surprising if something came in there sooner or later. It's rated C2, which means, at least right now, unless our neighborhood association gets the rule changed, 120-foot tall building can be built on that site. And it could be fully residential, or it could be residential and commercial.
But that's just
But-
on River Road.
Pardon?
It's on Maxwell.
It's on
No,
Maxwell.
Maxwell has an area as well.
So it's okay with me.
Okay, but we did ask, and we'll see where it goes, that the city planning department is asking to have that.
He
height
closed the front
over to
door if
60
he's
feet.
outside talking.
So we'll see.
He gets picked up. Can you close?
It's
It
been-
gets picked up on the mic.
Pardon?
It's been this way for quite a while.
Yeah, the 120 feet, yes.
It's not.
While we're closing the meeting, I want to know if those of present online and physically think it's important to continue to explore ways to address renters' issues in this neighborhood, or this is like the first shot and it wasn't all that successful, but so I'm curious about, should we continue pursuing this as a social justice issue?
Can I speak to that effect?
Yeah.
I think it's important. I think it's not realistic to invite people and expect them to show up at the next meeting for program. That we did outreach before an event where a number of renters were probably part of the event, part of those 400, I was guessing 200, however many came by. And so, and next meeting, we're having something about local businesses, which ought to be interesting to renters as well as long-term people. So I think that we do that for a year and see if we have more renters, not expect it to happen in
Right away.
2 hours.
Yeah.
2 days.
So we can certainly put the information we received on our website. But are you suggesting we try to advocate or educate, or both?
For the renters.
Yeah, where.
Oh, that's to me. I just think we need to be aware, just to say we need to be aware of racism or anything else. It's Eugene, social justice is primarily around class, and class is defined in America as whether or not you own your own home. And so I just think it's an awareness issue
And I'm not saying we should start a renters association or hire an attorney or anything, I'm just saying, let's have our consciousness raised and continue to develop relationships over a long period of time.
Okay. So I have a question for those of you who are on Zoom. Was the ability to hear tonight's meeting better?
Let me up. You can unmute and answer him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was definitely a little better. There were still dropouts, but it was, especially the presenter, was very clear. Some of the people in the general circle, not so much.
Okay.
I feel like the audio was a lot better. I think everyone who is not speaking at the meeting and you're at physically is turn off your mic. So because we can hear you when you're just talking to somebody next to you. So that would be my one suggestion is if you're talking, just turn off your mic if you're not talking to the whole group.
Actually, there isn't. Yeah.
Nobody has their mics on.
Can
It's
I?
the problem with the owl. It's too.
Oh, the owl, that owl. Yeah, the other thing I want to suggest is, I mean, I'm not sure about River Road Community Organization being an advocacy group. Definitely an educational place, but maybe there's a way to link on our website, renters information for renters, and you could just link it to the Lane County renters page or something like that. So as people in our community get turned on to RRCO, they check out the website, they'll go, oh, there's a whole section here for renters. How awesome. And it'll link it. We can just link it. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just link it to, you know, to things that are already out there in our community. So just a suggestion.
Yeah.
If you have some suggestions for that and can send it to River Road Board at the email. Board at. Would you say please?
Suggestions about the meeting.
I will if you'll say it.
Suggestions about meetings and changes can be sent to board at riverroadco.org. It's on, it's in the newsletter. It's in the newsletter by then.
Okay, 8:30.
Thank
you. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, wait, Bobby, Bobby wanted to speak. Bobby?
I was just going to say that obviously our purpose is to be a neighborhood organization, but I would hope that one of our goals as a neighborhood is to be a place that's welcoming and where people can expect fair conditions, which includes good renter conditions. I think renter rights are just inherent to quality of life in a community.
Yeah, great. Thanks for being here tonight. Bye-bye. I'm going to end the meeting.